Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the office that this webinar is being hosted from is on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, as represented today by the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations. And further, I'd like to acknowledge that Mount Work Regional Park is located within the traditional territory of the WSÁNEĆ peoples, as represented today by the Malahat, Pakwachin, Sartlet, Sayout, and Sakum peoples. And I ask that you keep that in mind as we go through the webinar today. We'll start into the presentation.
Is everyone seeing that all right? Hopefully.
Well, hopefully that is the case. And welcome to all, hello to everyone that's joined us today. The purpose of the presentation is to provide some highlights of key sections of the draft management plan. Both the draft management plan and the comment form survey are on the website. They're available through the Get Involved section of the website where you registered for the webinar. I just want to say right off the bat that I may use the words draft management plan. I may use the words management plan. If and when I do, I mean the same thing. And I do hope that you'll all take a look through the full management plan and submit comments. But we'll start right in at the beginning with where we're at in the planning process. Next slide, please. So the planning process for Mount Work's management plan was initiated in mid-2020, and we undertook our initial engagement process over the summer and fall, engaging with First Nations, government agencies, municipalities, park users, stakeholders, interest groups, and the general public, and received approximately 10,000 comments from over 1,100 people or interested parties. Some were groups. So then we started into the drafting of the management plan, and the core project team that focused on the development of the plan included me as the park and trail planner, a conservation specialist, a recreation specialist, our operations supervisor that's responsible for Mount Work, the senior park ranger, geographic information specialist, and of course the regional parks management team was involved in the process also. That's brought us to today. The focus over the development of the management plan was to incorporate as many of the ideas that we heard, ideas and suggestions that we heard through the initial plan. And now we're at a point where we're bringing the plan out for review and comment. As I said, the comment form that is available has questions that will help us as we move forward to finalizing the plan. The next steps will be reviewing all of the input that we receive from all of the different interested parties, updating the plan if and as needed, submitting the plan to our Regional Parks Committee for consideration, and then it will go to the board. The final proposed plan will go to the CRD board for approval. I expect that will happen sometime in the spring of 2023. Next slide. So Mount Work has been a regional park since 1970, but it's been part of the traditional territory of the WSÁNEĆ people since time immemorial. It's known in the Sanchothan language as Chomayathan. It continues to be a place that has importance for the WSÁNEĆ people. It's located at the base of the Saanich Peninsula and is included within the District of Highlands, the District of Saanich, and the Juan de Fuca electoral area. The park protects sensitive ecosystems, species at risk, critical habitat. It also provides significant recreational opportunities such as swimming, fishing, mountain biking, hiking, horseback riding, family outings and picnics, of things of that nature. There's 3 lakes within the park, and another fork lake is adjacent to the park. And next slide. In terms of some background information, this park is classified, all regional parks have a classification. This park, Mount Work, is classified as a regional natural area. Natural areas have significant conservation values, but they're able to be managed to allow for appropriate outdoor activities as well. Where the areas exist in the park that are that have sensitive or threatened ecosystems, the priority is to protect those for conservation, but it doesn't necessarily exclude use. We have to look at how use is managed. Some of the key challenges really for any park organization is that dual mandate, the balance of conservation and recreation opportunities. So we've tried to find the right balance between those two aspects of our mandate. The park has grown over the years from 12.5 hectares in 1970 when it was established to 744 hectares now. It's currently the 5th largest park within the CRD regional park system. And visitation has increased 125% over the last 10 years. It was 140,000 visitors in 2012. And by 2021, we had 316,000 visitors. Next slide, please. Section 3, so as I go through this presentation, I'll try and highlight where in the draft management plan you can get more information if you'd like. So section 3 of the draft management plan outlines the park values in more detail. But from a conservation values, there are 6 sensitive ecosystems in the park, 6 at-risk plant communities in the park, 3 species at risk animals that have federally identified critical habitat in a recovery plan that's been created for them. That's the sharp-tailed snake, the western painted turtle, and the blue-gray tail dropper, which is a slug. There are 6 additional species at risk that have been either observed or heard in or around the park that the park provides habitat that they could use as well. There's more information in the management plan in Appendix 3 about the cultural values and all of the different species at risk and ecosystem at risk. From a cultural heritage values, First Nations context is provided in Appendix 2 of the management plan. And the park does have significant the First Nations have a significant cultural attachment to the park. It's been used, it includes traditional routes through their territory. It's been used for hunting and harvesting. The lakes and creeks in the park are valued resources. There are sacred areas that exist. And it's not just past use, it's current use, ongoing use. So there are many values in the park that relate to First Nations. From a recreational perspective, our vehicle counts show that 60% of visitation is to the Durrance Lake area of the park. 24% of people are accessing it through the parking areas that lead into the designated mountain biking area. And 16% of park use comes from the Ross Durrance parking lot area and the Munn Road parking area. So it does provide, as I mentioned, regionally significant recreational area for the CRD, and that relates to mountain biking, it relates to swimming and fishing, as well as hiking. Another connection, another value from a recreational perspective is both its connection to Gowland Todd and also its connection to Thetis Lake Regional Park. Next slide. So all management plans include a vision for the park, and the intent is to show what we're working towards, what we want this park to be like, at least within the next 15 years. So I'll read this vision for you. The proposed vision is, the delicate balance between conservation and recreation is well maintained, with a mix of areas providing engaging recreational activities and undeveloped areas maintained for nature. Park visitors appreciate both the physical and mental health benefits of recreating in nature and the need to steward the park for nature. There's significance in the past, the present, and the future use of this area. The principles of friendship and respect are shown to First Nations by working cooperatively to ensure that First Nations peoples feel welcome on their traditional lands. Indigenous knowledge is incorporated into ongoing park management, and park values are available to the next generations. Research, educational programs, and partnering opportunities are fostering a greater understanding of the natural, cultural, and recreational environment of the park, a desire to help protect those different values, and ongoing respect between park visitors. So the balance in this vision, still on the vision, thank you. The balance in this vision does not necessarily mean equal. It's about finding the right fit, more of an equilibrium, or ensuring that we don't reach a tipping point beyond which the natural systems are no longer sustainable. So the vision tries to address the conservation, the recreation, and the cultural heritage. And it proposes that the park is a place where we teach, where we learn, where we grow our understanding both of the natural world and the cultural world. Next slide. From the perspective of goals, section 4 in the management plan sets them out. They're shown here on the screen. What the purpose is, again, goals are to help us move forward towards achieving that vision. And first and foremost, the goal is to protect the park's ecological values from negative impacts. And because of that, we apply a conservation lens in our management and development of the park. In the spirit of reconciliation, the cultural heritage goal is to support First Nations cultural practices within Mount Work and to minimize disturbance to known First Nations cultural features and practices in the park. A third goal is to provide a diversity of outdoor recreation opportunities that connect people with nature to nature and accommodate visitors with different interests, ages, and abilities. The last goal is to continue to expand Mount Work through land donations and acquisitions that foster recreation and or conservation opportunities. Section 4 of the management plan also includes, no, that's fine, you can shift it on, but section 4 of the plan also includes 13 related objectives. So zoning, we should be on the zoning one, yeah. So not only the goals, but the objectives are also in section 4 in the plan. Zoning, no, we're still on zoning. Sorry, my apologies. The zoning slide.
No, it's okay. I accidentally clicked it and it went off.
Oh, okay.
Disaster. Sorry about it.
In terms of zoning, the purpose of zoning is to identify land management strategies or direction for specific areas of the park. So in the draft management plan, there are 3 zones that are proposed: the environmental protection, outdoor recreation, and park services. So the environmental protection zone covers 65% of the park. The trails in this zone are intended to be low impact with a focus on nature study, nature interpretation, nature appreciation. In the outdoor recreation zone, it covers 34% and is shown in the pink, most of which is the designated mountain biking area, but there's a small sliver of outdoor recreation also on the north side of Durant's Lake. Outdoor recreation zone is where concentrated recreational use can occur. And the park services zone, which is less than 1% of the park, is used to identify areas, the primary access areas in a park, where parking, toilets, and information kiosks are usually consolidated. Next slide. Section 6.1 in the management plan and map 7 and 8 explain the trail plan in more detail, but I'll give a few points here. So we are proposing 85 kilometers of official trails. All of those, I'll just note, are existing trails, some existing already designated trails, some unofficial trails that have been developed over the years that we are bringing into the official trail plan. There's a mix of single use, which would be either biking only or hiking only. There are dual use. Some of those dual use trails are hiking and mountain biking trails. Some are hiking and equestrian. And then there are multi-use trails, which would allow cycling, hiking, and equestrian use. So a 25-hectare expansion of the designated mountain biking area is proposed in the plan. It's primarily modifying the westerly boundary of the designated mountain biking area. And it will follow the edge of trails, as opposed to right now, the designated mountain biking area follows political boundaries that aren't necessarily visible on the ground. So some other unsanctioned trails are being brought in, as I mentioned. Bubble Wrap is one, Mons is one, Huge Ribbon is one. They're now proposed as official park trails, but the management plan still puts forward a commitment to decommissioning unofficial trails that have been built without permission or that are considered inappropriate or not compatible. Next slide. In terms of park development concepts, that section of the management plan outlines what the anticipated major developments, infrastructure, significant changes are. There's a wide range of development concepts covered in the management plan. They range from actions that will undertake with specific individuals or groups, actions that apply to the whole park, actions that are for a particular part of the park. There are approximately 40 actions in the management plan, so I won't be going through them today. I will be providing examples through the next few slides. So as shown here, there's an action to work with First Nations, cooperatively with First Nations on projects of mutual interest. And some of those, a couple of those include identification of First Nations names for key trails in the park, continued monitoring of cultural features and areas in the park. And there's also another suggestion that we work with Pakenham Society, which is a First Nations group, to identify plants and species of interest that can be used in restoration, and that they may assist us in restoration of areas using plants of interest to First Nations. There are actions that are whole park actions. Some of those include the developing and implementing a trail decommissioning plan, signing the park trails, upgrading trails throughout the park for better sustainability or better visitor experience, or to improve conservation aspects. There are also, though it's not on the slide, there are also some ongoing projects, such as continuing to work with the South Island Mountain Biking Society for the maintenance of trails within the designated mountain biking area, those sorts of ongoing projects. Next slide. Some of the other, a great number of the development concepts or management actions that are proposed are split out by park sub area. And given the size of the park at 744 hectares, and that some people are particularly interested in certain areas of the park, we thought that this would be an easier way to show them. And so the sub areas are shown here on the map. The blue at the top is the Durrants Lake sub area. The purple area is the designated mountain biking area. To the east, the light green is the Killarney Lake sub area. The red is the central area, and west of Durrants Lake in the dark green is noted as the west area in the management plan. I'll go through some examples now on the next slide. So examples of the different management actions, development concepts for the Durrance Lake include working with BC Parks on cycling in Gowland-Todd in the area north of Durrance Lake, expanding the Durrance Lake parking lot, and also advocating to BC Parks to provide parking for Gowland-Todd, and then over time adding additional visitor facilities as needed at Durrance Lake itself, such as an additional toilet, more seating, things of that nature down the line. At the designated mountain biking area, we've already started working with Sims on improving trails, and we've already started improving the signage in the designated mountain biking area. So there is an action to continue that until they've all been improved and the signage is all up to date. Improving the technical training area to provide skills for riding in Mount Work in particular, and particularly focused on youth riding. And then also developing a covered seating, staging, viewing area, something at or by the technical training area that would allow staging of group events, that would allow seating for people watching others on the technical training area, and that allows a covered area to take a break, have a snack, eat your lunch, those sorts of things. At Killarney Lake, again, there are also visitor facilities suggested in the management plan that would include a toilet, some tables, a horse hitching post and mounting block, and a bike rack, and improving the trails in that area as well. Next slide. Examples of some of the management actions proposed in the central area. The first is to develop a new primary access with a parking lot, toilet, information kiosk located on the south side of Willis Point Road, with links to both Durrance Lake and to the designated mountain biking area. Also improving key trail locations for sustainability, ecological protection, and visitor experience. Certainly there are a lot of those areas, but in the central area, there's the Summit Trail that has a lot of quite rough locations that need work or slight rerouting. There's the Bear Forest Trail that has a very low-lying area where some people have seen red-legged frogs. And so putting in things like raised platform to go through that wet area, or shifting trails that are currently in the Creek Valley, out of the Creek Valley for increased conservation, those types of things. And expanding the parking lot at the Munn Road end of the park. In the west area, west of Ross Durrance Road, working with BC Parks on an agreement for provincial park facilities that are on the regional park lands. That's a key, and working with them to link Timberman Trail. So there's two trails on that side of the park at the moment, linking those trails so that people don't have to walk down Ross Durrance Road, which is a fairly narrow road. That's also a proposal in the management plan, as well as phasing in more parking for the Pease Lake area over time. We don't feel that it's a priority or necessary in the short term, but we do want to make sure that people are not parking on that roadway. Next slide. In terms of implementation of the management plan, all of the actions and development concepts have been consolidated into Table 1 in the Section 7, which is the implementation strategy for the management plan. So it's an easy spot to be able to go and see all of the proposed actions. They're categorized into ongoing, which could take place throughout the 15 years or as needed throughout the 15 years. Short-term actions generally are thought to be needed in the first 5 years of the management plan implementation. Medium term would be years 6 to 10, and longer term would be years 11 to 15. Now that said, of course, we have finite resources, both staff and financial resources, and we have 35 regional parks and regional trails in a growing system. So all of the actions are looked at with priorities for all of the parks. So this is when we hope all of the actions would be taken into account, but we do have to consider it in a system-wide basis. And next slide, the last in closing really is, as I mentioned, the plan and the comment form are available. Please choose to read the plan and submit a comment form. It will be really helpful for us to be able to finalize the plan with input from lots of people. I appreciate that you've joined us today, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay, so now that we're done the presentation, we'll move to questions, and we already have one. So just so everyone knows, I'm going to read them out loud. Just that way, since this is being recorded, people who weren't able to join us today can hear what we are talking about. So we have a question from Tim, and the question is related. So it's a two-part question. So the question is related to the safety of Durance Lake users with respect to the close proximity to the Heels rifle range. And more specifically, in 2019, there was a closure of the Volks range near Chilliwack, where it was determined that the original calculations of the safety buffer zone were calculated incorrectly, and that nearby recreation fell within the buffer area. Tim adds, my calculations of the use of the ammunitions used by the users of the Heels rifle range put Durance Lake users at risk when using the range sizing calculations provided by the RCMP shooting range office. My question is, has the Mount Work Committee verified that the type of ammunition currently used by the users of the Heels range been compared with current RCMP safety protocols sizing diagram to ensure that the area around Durance Lake has been compared and accepted for safe use? Quite a mouthful.
So what I can say is we have been in touch with DND and CFD, Esquimalt and Maiden staff as we've been developing this, and I will be in touch with them further. They are reviewing it. I have not, we haven't talked specifically about what types of ammunition they use, but I will follow up on that.
Okay. We have a question from Anonymous, which is fine, by the way. If you guys prefer to be anonymous in case you missed the intro, feel free to do that. What is the status of Durance Lake Dam?
Durance Lake Dam, we know that there are some issues with it, and we are, one of the actions in the management plan is to do the next level of studies that we need to do to determine what the best course of action is. So we haven't determined that yet, hence it's an action in the plan, and it's an action to do it in the short term.
Okay, next one. Are children going to be accommodated with beginner bike trails? There currently aren't any suitable for beginners. Did you hear that one, Caroline? Uh-oh, are we freezing?
It's saying my internet.
Yeah, my internet was being a little funky for a second there.
Did you say the question?
Yeah, I said the question. I think we might have froze for a second.
Oh,
but
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't
seems like
hear
we're
any
back,
question.
maybe.
You're frozen again.
Okay. Are children going to be accommodated with beginner bike trails? There currently aren't any suitable for beginners. Were you able to hear that?
I heard, are children going to be accommodated? That was the last I heard.
No.
Oh, no. Well, this is the first time we've ever had Wi-Fi issues during a webinar.
Okay, I don't know why that would be.
So are they going to be accommodated with beginner bike trails?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything. You're freezing every time you start talking.
Will children be accommodated with beginner bike trails? Did I get it out this time?
Can you hear me, Caroline? Is it just Chris's computer?
Will children be accommodated with beginner
bike trails?
Beginner bike trails? There are blue bike trails, there are green bike trails. There are green, blue, black, and double black bike trails. So new riders and youth are accommodated through the green bike trails and can progress up to the green, progress up to the blue trails. The technical training area is proposed to have some changes and improvements that will help develop skills of youth, which will also assist as in developing their skills and progressing. Is that what the question was?
We lost you during the answer. Can you type it in the chat?
My answer in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I can try that.
Okay, it seems like some people can hear the answer just fine. So maybe it's just on our end. I'm going to tell myself it's just on our end because I've never had Wi-Fi issues in one of these before.
Sorry.
Okay. Next question. Where would you expand the Durance parking lot without impacting sensitive riparian areas directly or with runoff from the lot?
Question at all.
Pardon?
I'm not hearing the question at all.
Oh no.
You're freezing every time.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Where would you expand the Durance parking lot without impacting sensitive riparian areas directly or with runoff from the lot? At this time, in a management plan, it's a conceptual idea. We haven't gone in and looked specifically. There may be area, it would be towards the lake, that could be reconfigured, but that would be looked at in more detail when a project was brought about, how and where it could fit. It's also one of the reasons that we're suggesting a new lot off Willis.
Hopefully everyone heard that answer. Point. Let us know in the chat if it broke up for you at all.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay now, Caroline, or am I still freezing for you?
Pardon me? You're still freezing.
Okay, I will put it in the chat again.
Okay, sorry. Don't get that once. Christiana, do you want me to read this out, or are they hearing you when you're reading it out? Delicate balance between conservation and recreation.
Sorry, you broke up. I put the next question in the chat.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking.
Sorry, do you want me to read the comment out?
Oh, no, it's fine. People can see the chat log.
Okay, I will read it out whether I need to or not. A delicate balance between conservation and recreation is not working. Conservation must be a priority. Unsanctioned illegal mountain biking trails continue to be built. The west side of Mount Work, 2 parcels were added in the early 2000s and have covenants that are not being adequately upheld. Fear for this plan. What actions will you take to make conservation a priority in the central area. I would suggest reviewing the central area concept development section. Of the plan. That's where we do identify what we're going to do. Decommissioning is proposed in that area. So looking at the plan, what we have done, we want to decommission inappropriate trails. We've assessed the trails. We've identified the ones that we feel are compatible, and we'll work to decommissioning other trails.
I tried turning off my video to see if I would freeze less, but I'm not sure if it's working. Okay, I'm going to put the next question in the chat.
Okay. So the most up-to-date sensitive ecosystem inventory has been used.
Okay, we don't have any more questions. I'm hoping you can hear me. You're freezing up for me a lot. So if anyone has further questions, please feel free to put them in the question and answer function. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm not sure what's going on with our Wi-Fi over here. But please feel free to put them in the Q&A and we'll continue answering questions. We will be here right until 1 p.m. You're not obligated to stay until directly 1 p.m. But please feel free to. We'll be here to answer questions. Oh, thank you very much, Vicky, for letting me know that you guys can hear me. Maybe I'll turn my camera back on. That didn't seem to be helping with the audio much. Thank you for that. That's scared that I was screaming into the void there for a little bit. But yeah, like I said, we'll be here right until 1 p.m. So please feel free to continue answering questions, asking questions, and we'll continue to answer them. So yeah, just let us know if you have any questions regarding the management plan or really anything to do with the management planning process.
I'm still not hearing you, Christiana.
Oh, good. Thank you again, Vicky. I'm glad that you could, at least you guys can hear. That's the most important part. Okay. So Caroline, hopefully you can hear me, but I'll also put it in the chat. The question is, have you considered creating a bike ambassador role for the park to manage maintenance, help, and educate surrounding illegal trail building?
I still can't hear you, Christiana.
It's in the chat.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to check with our volunteer program coordinator. I don't know that there has been talk of that within the designated mountain biking area. I'm not sure beyond that, but I don't have an answer in terms of where that is in a process at this stage.
We do have dedicated, I'm sorry, Caroline, I can't hear what you said, but if the question was about mountain bike stewards and Mount Work, we do have volunteer mountain biking stewards and Mount Work who do Pretty much that. They are in the park routinely and they help educate people and answer questions and help out with initiatives. So.
And do I need to type the answer as well? Or did I hear you say that people are able to hear the responses?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Caroline. They can hear us at least, so. I'm going to put the next question in the chat.
So in terms of key interest groups being involved, such as the South Island Climbers Association and SIMS, there is an action in the management plan to work on the designated, so a designated rock climbing bouldering area has been identified in the Killarney Lake section of the park, and there is an action to work further on the needs of that area. So a key group like the South Island Climbing Association could well be identified as a group to work collectively with, cooperatively with.
Okay, we have a question in the chat and one in the Q&A. So I'm going to copy the one from the Q&A and put it in the chat for you, Caroline. Okay. So there are 2 questions there.
Is there adequate awareness signage about what legal mountain biking areas? SIMS is very conscientious and the vast majority of bike trail users have no interest in illegal trail bans. We've been working very closely with SIMS to increase awareness of where the official trails are for mountain biking, including signing those trails and making it, and we'll be updating with the update in the management plan once it's approved. Maps out in the park will also be updated. And we're working closely with SIMS to get that information out through SIMS as well as through the regional parks. The second question, for more management on mountain biking. Sorry, and many trails are being seriously impacted and not good as walking trails anymore. Or so much to walk on. Okay, we have looked at both trails in the mountain biking area and trails outside of the mountain biking area and tried to identify ones that were appropriate for dual use or multiple use. And there are also hiking only trails provided or proposed in the management plan for the very reason that we heard from hikers, some hikers, that they had different desired use patterns and would like some areas where they don't have to be always looking over their shoulder for other users. So we've tried to blend it with some multiple use, dual use, and single use to address the issue. Also, we're working on trail standards and improving the trails that mountain biking is permitted on to be able to better accommodate without impacting the trail itself, but also ways to address different users on a single trail. E-bikes.
I put the next question in the chat.
Yes. Can you just, motorized vehicles aren't allowed in the park, yet electric boats are allowed. So the lakes, it's an odd situation that the lakes actually are a provincial resource, and the province allows electric boats on Durant's Lake. E-bikes I would have to, I'd have to check with our park rangers for sure on where things are at with e-bikes at the moment. I certainly know that there are e-mountain bikes at the moment, but I'd have to check further before I could answer that specifically. Beyond the fact that electric boats are allowed on Durant's Lake. Sorry, everything's frozen again. There we go.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Some of the areas in the designated mountain biking areas that are black or double black are only for mountain biking. So I'm not sure what the question means in terms of safety of high-speed sections. From a user perspective, there are trail standards and that are used for the different levels of mountain biking trails. And that helps from a safety perspective if they're maintained to a certain standard. If the question relates to different users on a trail and the safety, there are certain areas that are designated for mountain biking only for that reason, because they do have steep contours. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, sorry, where hiking is allowed. Well, it would be interesting to have a little more detail to be able to answer the question, because oftentimes, or at least what I have noted in the park and when we've been out, is that hiking and the mountain bikers, I mean, you can tell if it's a steep slope and you're going up that there may be mountain bikers coming down. So it's a case of being aware, but also we've tried to identify ones where dual use are on trails where it can be accommodated. That's why not all trails are dual use. In terms of the trend shows huge increases in electric bike usage for the coming years. Yes, and in terms of the electric bike use, it will be addressed. I'm, as the planner, just not the person that addresses it. So hence I don't have the most up-to-date information for you in terms of a response. They may be electric mountain bikes may be allowed in certain areas and not in other areas. But it's the park ranger I would need and the operations supervisor that I would need to speak to more specifically, because they're not, at this point, they're not addressed in the draft management plan. Yes, feel free to contact me directly or through the park planning email, parkplanning@crd.bc.ca. Green and blue trails are hiking allowed, and the trail doesn't have to be steep to be high speed. I'd have to look further at specific trails. And I suppose before I can answer, I'd need to better understand what the concern is. So is it that there's dual use on those trails? And I'm sorry, I can't answer it with the information that I've got at the moment. I would want to talk to the operations supervisor further, but that's not helpful until I know more specifically what the concern is. bikers and hikers being in close proximity. Okay. I haven't calculated in terms of how much of the Heartland trails are single use versus dual use. Certainly the Black Diamond trails, and I believe certainly the double Black Diamond trails are single use. And I believe the Black Diamond trails, I have to go through and review the management plan again, are bike only. And yes, the blue and green trails, or some of the blue and green trails, not all of the blue and green trails. It's almost like there's a double loop area in the mountain biking area that is where hiking and mountain biking and horseback riding are allowed. And I haven't, off the top of my head, I don't have the calculations of the number of trails or the kilometer of trails that are hiking, biking, and horseback riding trails. But these are certainly comments that can be put into the online survey. Can mountain bikers everywhere, it's causing major problems for the hikers and other users and losing our wildlife. We'll have into account with biodiversity. Well, this is certainly the aspect that we have tried to address most in the management plan, is finding that right fit between and different types of users, and trying to ensure that the key areas that require conservation have adequate protection while allowing appropriate activities or appropriate levels and types of activities in the right place, and being able to address the fact that different types of users have different interests. And so that's what we have tried to accommodate in the management plan as it is written. What we're looking for is to hear from people as to whether that right balance has been met. And if you feel it hasn't, what is needed to improve it.
I can hear you again, Caroline. Can you hear me again?
I can at the moment.
Oh,
yes.
It was a very stressful 15 minutes. I was like, I get here. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions, but like I said, we're here right until 1 p.m. So keep asking, and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. And I'm very glad that at least all you lovely people who came to join us today were able to hear our answers, because then we would have had a real problem. So. You'll also see that Kaylin has linked directly to the comment form in the chat. So if you want to jump right off of this and into the comment form, the link is right there, and we encourage you to do so.
Christiana, I have a technical question for you.
Yes.
The chat is also saved, is it?
Yes, the chat won't go on the website, but it will have it for our own minutes for and record keeping. Yeah. Oh, Tim has a comment. Sorry to keep on about the rifle thing, but I believe that the ball has been dropped here.
As I say, I will follow up with DND further.
So for the few who are still here, since I don't see any questions coming in, I just want to let you guys know a little bit about next steps. So we have until the public and yourselves have until May 16th, I believe, to complete the comment form. And once that's completed, it'll be compiling the results and obviously updating the management plan, as Caroline said, likely going to the board sometime next spring. If you'd like to stay up to date, I encourage you to check the Get Involved page regularly. There's also an opportunity to sign up for the Get Involved, and you can subscribe to updates about the Mount Work draft management plan and the management plan in general. So if you register and you subscribe to that, anytime there's an update on the progress of the plan, you'll get an email right to your inbox with information. So it's a pretty nice tool for keeping track of projects you're interested in. Also, it's the main engagement tool for the CRD in general. So if you're on the Get Involved homepage, you can always look around any other parks engagements, management plans. There's one for the strategic plan right now up. You could also check in there to see what other engagement opportunities are there for you for the CRD in general, but also regional parks. I think we're losing people slowly. So thank you all for attending today. You had wonderful questions, and it was great to be here with you on your lunch hour. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.